Welcome to Muslim Apologetics Australia. In this video, I want to discuss the hypocrisy of the West when they attack the Islamic history when it comes to government, when it comes to their form of leadership, when it comes to the Khilafa, the Sultans, and how they operated. It really makes your stomach churn when they use arguments to attack that. And we're going to compare the double standards. So some of the claims made is, those Islamic governments were run on theocracy, which is a system of government in which priests rule in the name of God or God. Of course, when we have a look at the secularists and the liberalists, they had a disattachment to this because back in history, we know that the Catholic Church was pretty much the dominant religion, and the church would run the affairs of the people. And so the West distanced themselves from this, detached themselves from this, and they moved towards a godless being. But like I said, when you move away from something, you become something else. But you're still that in a different form. Atheism and secularism is a form of religion. No one can even dispute that anymore. Because when you look at their tenets, when you look at their protocols, their ideologies, they have a consensus in a sense that they have their moral values, they have their certain beliefs, and they like to impose those beliefs on the rest of the world. For example, they have a unanimous agreement upon abortion rights. You speak to the secular atheists, the liberalists, the ones who are about human rights, they will be pro-abortion. They would be pro-gay activism. It's like it's in their DNA. This is what they believe in. In fact, I personally haven't come across an atheist who disagrees with, for example, homosexuality. No, I mean, they don't turn around and say, these people shouldn't have those rights. You won't find it. Because, again, it's like it's inscripted in their belief system. So they've removed God. They've made themselves like an illah, like a God. And they prescribe what is morally right and what is morally wrong. And they don't just keep that to themselves. Like, it's so hypocritical. They'll say, if you believe in your religion, keep it in the closet. Keep it to yourself. Keep it in your private affairs. They don't keep their beliefs private. No, they impose it on the rest of the world. If they find a Muslim country that condemns homosexuality, that imprisons homosexuals, that punishes homosexuals, they will advocate for change. They will go and be a dictator, as if like a dictator, and they'll impose their Western values on that Muslim nation. They'll put boycotts, sanctions. They will do everything in their power to remove that particular leader, like we've seen the leader of Brunei. So human choices and human values are for them. But if a Muslim nation wants to have their own values, their own choices, which they want to impose on their communities, no, you can't do that. But the West can be the dictator, right? They could be the dictator and impose their moral values on society. The second attempt they would use against the sultans in Islamic theology, there is a form of monarchy where you can pick your son as the next leader based on Quran, Sunnah, his knowledge of Islam. Yeah, the Islamic history has this. and we're not ashamed of it. Of course, you can also pick leaders from outside your family. We know this. We know the four Khilafas. They weren't related to one another, and they were from different families, and of course they were appointed as leaders. But of course there are scenarios where there is monarchy in Islam, and so this is being attacked. Oh, the sultans did this and sultans done that. But when we have a look, the secularists have a form of monarchy. They do, and I'll tell you how. It may not be related through family, direct family, but isn't it related through race? Ask yourself the question. Isn't it related through the white blood race? It is. You have a look at American history. Majority of their presidents are all white. They have to fit a certain description, a certain look. When President Obama was the president of America, it was as if they wanted to prove to the world how diverse they are. Oh, look, we've got a whole list of white presidents, and it's looking a bit embarrassing because we're trying to represent, the free world, liberation, the champions of liberal values. And as Americans, we like to champion opportunity for all. Doesn't matter what sex, race, gender, color, whatever you are. And what do? It was as if they had to. It was like they had to put a black president there just so people can shut up and don't look at them as being racist. But did it make racism go away? No. In fact, racism was more fueled when Obama was president. And what did Donald Trump say? When he was coming into election, he said he wants to make America great again. And Obama got offended. Obama said America was always great. America was always great. Obama understood that what Donald Trump was saying was racism and offensive. That only when a white president is re-elected, America becomes great again. Right? So these people want to accuse Islam for monarchy, blood ties, secession leadership through bloodline. And these racists want to tell you, gullible people, oh, look, we need to make America great again. We need to elect a white president again. So they have a monarchy through the white race, racism. And then they will accuse the sultans and the Ottomans and the Islamic Khilafa and the leadership. They'll say autocracy is a form of government in which one ruler has absolute control in the decision making. But what they don't understand is the Khilafa bases his decision making based on the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And he has his advisors next to him to correct him if he's scapegoating or just manipulating or trying to put his own interpretation. He can be corrected through his board. But of course, this apparently is only unique to the Khilafa and to the rulership of Islamic governments. And the West is separate from all of this. But this is another lie. Another lie. The West itself has governments And they like to give the condescending idea that you have an opposition party. What a joke, right? So, for example, in Australia, you'll have the Liberal Party, you'll have the Labor Party. These are called opposition parties, meaning that they check one another. If one is doing wrong, the other one will come and expose it and say, what are you doing? And expose it and try and defame it and try and bring it down so the other one can take over. But when you have a look at their core beliefs, honestly, it's really not very contradictory. I mean, they'll probably just argue on how is our financial expenditure spent on certain issues. So they'll fight over that, and they call that an opposition party, right? But if you look at their fundamental beliefs, they're in agreement. They're in agreement. They both believe in secular liberal values. So when you realistically look at it from face value, you may not see it, but you go deeper, you will see that they are the same. So in essence, they may look like they are separate and opposition, but their fundamental core beliefs are in unity. So it is absolute control of one rulership. Just an example, I remember when America was ready to invade Saddam Hussein and Iraq, these guys, the Liberal Party and the Labor Party, they fight like cats and dogs in Parliament about minor issues, right? Cats and dogs, one's arguing with the other, and there's parliamentary inquiry, and they're fighting, the place looks like a schoolyard bully, right? But soon as America decided to invade Iraq, both parties came together and they said, although we have disagreements with one another, we are one together in our fight against Al-Qaeda or our fight against Saddam Hussein, or we have the same national interests of America. So this party that seemed to be opposition to one another came together. They were actually the same thing. Again, so notice it's condescending. They seem as though they are opposition, but when it comes to important issues, they are one. And I love this one, right? Totalitarian, right? This is the other one. They'll, smear Islamic Khilafa and sultans. Relating to the system of government that is centralized and dictatorial and requires complete subservience to the state. What the hell are your Western nations doing when other Muslim nations do not accept your secular liberal values? You come as dictators. No, if you don't want democracy, we're going to bring it to you by force. That's what they did in Afghanistan. Right? It wasn't just about removing Osama bin Laden. It was about coming to Afghanistan, removing Sharia law, removing anything religious or dogmatic in that sense, and they would bring their own dogmatic values for the Afghani people. Right? So they would have, they would remove same-sex schools. There will be intermingling between females and males, integration in that sense. Again, Westerners imposing their values on an Islamic culture, right? If you wanted to do artwork, drawing pictures, which is forbidden in Islam, no, these artists were allowed to draw this and there was no sanctions made against them or no punishments. No, they were allowed to do this sort of artwork. If you wanted to not wear the hijab, you're free to not wear the hijab. If girls and ladies wanted to dress provocatively, they can do that in society. That's no, and so they were forcing their Western values on an Islamic culture by force. If you have a look at France, they're banning the burqa. They've banned the burqa for, I mean, where is the outcry from the feminists? Where is the outcry from the humanists about these Muslim women who want to wear the burqa, and the French government bans it? And these people want to talk about, centralization, dictatorship, totalitarianism. A Australian rugby player says he disagrees with homosexuality, and they banned him. They removed all sponsorship from him, right? I think he was in the Wallabies or the Australian team, right? He was removed from the Australian team because he wasn't allowed to hold his religious views. No, he can't. And so he was stripped from sponsorships. He was sanctioned. He was dropped from the Australian team. And these people want to talk about totalitarianism, dictatorship. And I love when they say, we can go back to this point, the sultans, the Khilafas, they would, there'll be lots of infighting when there's monarchism involved, and, brother will try and kill his own brother to get his seat to the throne. And you think to yourself, really? What are you doing in the West? What are you doing in the West? Didn't you guys support the coup attempt in Turkey in 2006? They wanted to remove Erdogan from power. The West supported the assassination of President Erdogan. They did. They were waiting for the Turkish people to rise up and remove Erdogan by force from his political seat. And these people want to talk about, when you have monarchy systems in Islamic Sharia and Khilafa and Sultan, the brother tries to kill the brother for the throne. Oh my God. And the sultans, there was so much infighting and there was corruption, whatever. Yeah, these people want to talk about corruption. They're political leaders. They are known in the West to be liars. They say you should not trust either a lawyer or a politician. This is the West. And these people want to smear the Sultan. They want to smear the Khilafa of being a form of corruption. And they abuse their leaderships every single day in the media for corruption. Either one is stashing money or using taxpayer funds to have a charter flight from here to there, like we saw with Julia Bishop, one of the head politicians in Australia, using a $5,000 helicopter charter flight, using taxpayer dollars. And that just came to surface now. I mean, imagine what else they did. And that's what they did. They ransacked the taxpayer dollars constantly. Corruption constantly within secular governmental bodies and systems. Constant corruption. Every second or third day you'll hear a politician did this or a politician did that. So these people accuse, if you have a Khilafa system, if you have a theocracy, if you have a sultan, this is going to cause corruption, this is going to happen, and that's going to happen, and then you think to yourself, you guys live in a glass house and you're throwing stones, calling us to a system other than the Khilafa and other than the Sultan. You're calling us to a system other than that. And here you are acting as if those systems are corruption free. And then the West will say, oh, but if we have corrupted leaders, we can replace them, we can, vote against them, and, we could have an uprising, and we could do this. So can Muslims.